Hello, my name is Alison Duana and I'm a Gene Keys astrologer and guide. I said that a bit wrong actually. I'm a Goddess Asteroid astrologer and Gene Keys guide. Um, so we're off to a good start this morning. And now my dogs are growling at each other. I wanted to do a little podcast about asteroid Hebe. She is the daughter. I'm going to say Jupiter and Juno. She's got other names. They've got other names, Zeus, Hera. But for the purposes of our astrology today, because I'm going to look at where her parents lie as well in the discovery chart. So Jupiter and Juno, they're right up there on Mount Olympus. They are the highest of the hierarchy, and Zeus actually has many other children by other women. So in a way, Hebe is kind of privileged to be of the marriage, if that makes sense. So that's for the first part of her story. But in being that kind of privileged daughter, she takes on a role of duty. So it's interesting, actually, it's all come up over the Queen's Jubilee celebrations because the Queen is someone a bit like Hebe, born into a role, born into this privileged position where Hebe's a bit different. She serves the gods and goddesses from the immortal cup, the Ambriosa. So she keeps them as gods and goddesses, essentially. So she's playing quite an important role there. Whereas the Queen is kind of serving the people, and so she doesn't get to live her own individual life because of this service and duty. Yes, so this is the archetype of Hebe. So we see her firstly as a dutiful daughter, if you like, and in the olden days, the youngest daughter was sometimes not allowed to marry. She had to stay at home and look after the mother and father. So we might find ourselves, as I do, in some kind of Hebe story where perhaps we're the carers for our parents. We're asked to make sacrifices in order to take care of our parents, or perhaps someone else, someone who's the god or goddess. Maybe we are a kind of follower of someone who asks this of us. So she has that side, and what's been coming through as well is that she also has a brother, Hephaistos, who is the sacred artist. So Hephaistos is also one of the sibling, a pure child, if you like, of Juno and Jupiter. But Juno is furious because he's born with a club foot. So, Jupiter's had all these other babies with other women. Juno ends up with the son with a club foot. So she kind of rejects him. She says that he's ugly. Although he does go on to marry Venus. So, he has got quite a lot going for him in that sense. So there's a brother-sister element as well that's kind of come in, and Hephaestus is actually exactly conjunct the sun today, in Gene Key 35 in line 5, which is in Gemini, and this is called Wormholes and Miracles, this Gene Key 35. It's a key to kind of unlocking the DNA database. So it feels like a potent time that all of this is coming to the fore. So let me share the chart here. So this is the discovery chart for Hebe. She was discovered on the 1st of July 1847. So Ceres was discovered in 1801. She comes some time after that, 47 years after that. Okay, so she is discovered over here at 16 degrees Capricorn, 53 minutes. So this is a very significant point, and especially this year, because the Venus-Sun inferior conjunction took place at 54 line 4, which Ra Uru Hu puts as one of the key points in the whole of the zodiac, where he calls it enlightenment in darkenment. So it's about this balancing, and it's the shadow of greed, the gift of aspiration, and the city of ascension. So essentially what's held in this Venus cycle is the keys to ascension, which is why I've chosen to follow this year very carefully and have ceremonies at each of the portals, which you are very welcome to come and join me on the Soul Tribe online platform doing that. So it's very interesting that this 54 is where Hebe's discovered, and she's discovered in the line 2, and here is her mother Juno, and she's in 54 line 6 at the time of discovery. So the 54 is called the Marrying Maiden. The Marrying Maiden refers to the second wife in the ancient Chinese culture. So this 54 is all about this kind of hierarchy, if you like, within families and where people lie in that position. So the Marrying Maiden held a kind of inferior position, if you like, to the first wife. And so there's something about the liberation of these kind of very traditional, hierarchical, tribal rules. So this for me is very resonant with Saturn turning retrograde. Now we're in that retrograde period until October in Aquarius. So Saturn is all about these traditions, these forms, and in Aquarius we get in a challenge to that, because the Aquarian forms want to be non-hierarchical and support equality. So this kind of tradition of the Marrying Maiden, that's got to go. And even though, you know, that's a thing from ancient China, we do still have these resonances through our ancestral lines of how inequality is playing out karmically. So that will be different for all of us depending on which country we're born in. So I invite you to really contemplate that in your own life. You know, what were the stories of the male, female, the brother, sister, the husband, the wife as you were growing up? And can you see resonance of that playing out through the generations? And yeah, that's what I've seen very powerfully in my own life through my cousin, who is much older than me. She's 76, so even though we're cousins, there's about 20 years or so between us. But it's really interesting how the brother-sister karma is playing out for her, it's playing out for me as well in a slightly different way. But it kind of shows to me, I guess, just the importance of these first tribal bonds with our siblings, or if we have no siblings, that's also a powerful marker in family constellation work. You know, whatever our family situation is, it's really shaped how we're wired up as human beings. Okay, so I thought also I'd look at where Jupiter is. So Jupiter is the father. He's down here just at the first degree of Cancer. And Cancer is, of course, all about tribal bonds and, yeah, tribal bonds and family. So interesting to find Jupiter there in Gene Key 15, line 2. Gene Key 15 is about the dullness is the shadow, then magnetism and fluorescence are the gift and the city. So it's about like this really dulled down energy of perhaps repression, perhaps being dominated, being held in a position you don't really want to be in. That you become more and more lackluster and you lose energy as time goes on. We also have this nice little conjunction here, which is interesting. Of we've got Hygeia there. She's a healing goddess. She's in Gene Key 45, line 6, which is all about communion. So again, that kind of reference to the cup in communion. And we have Pallas Athena there. She's in Gene Key 12, line 1, and that's all about purity of heart, which Hebe is the cup bearer. She's got an interesting sexuality because she's kind of just post pubescent sexuality, so she's a young woman, and the the cup bearers in all traditions are virgins, and yet their sexual energy is so much part of it. That kind of purity of the sexual energy is so much part of that field of immortality and stuff that she's holding. So purity of heart and communion, that feels very significant. Yeah, okay, so I'm not going to say anything more about that because I could go on about that chart for another 20 minutes, but let's talk about where she is today. So today she is at 1 degrees Gemini, which is Gene Key 20. Now, this is conjunct the Pleaides. A couple of weeks ago, I did something on Mercury retrograde going across the Pleaides. So the retrograde of Mercury is now complete, and Mercury is turned round. Today it's at 26 degrees of Taurus. This is Gene Key 8, line 3. So it's just beginning its transit of the 7 sisters, which fall across the end of Taurus, the beginning of Gemini. Yes, so very interesting to find Hebe here amongst the sacred 7 sisters. So beautiful, feminine, healing energy where she is right now. And so Mercury would have gone back, done the retrograde over her, is now going to move direct over her in the next few weeks. And as I mentioned earlier, Hephaistos, who is her brother, is exactly conjunct the Sun today at 35, line 5. So this is a really amazing time for the healing of this archetype. The way it's been playing out for me is breaking free from the old tribal rules of the dutiful daughter, and and that's a very, I'd say, maybe one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, actually, is break out of that. And it feels like the universe has broken it for me. If it was down to me, I'd probably still be trundling along doing it, but the Saturn retrograde just like blew it all up. So I'm wondering if this story is unfolding for you. You know, whether you want to stay in those traditional roles or not. You know, the Aquarian energy is shifting us. So the best solution is a renegotiation of the relationship. Sometimes a relationship might have to kind of end and come back together again, like parents and daughters, parents and sons, or it might end permanently, or it might carry on in some other form, which is more Aquarian, more balance, more reciprocity of give and take. So thank you for listening to this podcast. Please share it with any friends, and please get in touch with me if you're interested in having a reading. I'm still keeping that offer open at the moment of looking at Hebe and Lempo as extra asteroids. I include the first 6 asteroids in my readings, the main ones. So these 2 are being thrown in as extras at the moment. Yeah, if you resonate with this is a good time to get a reading. And also join my platform on Soul Tribe, which is truly just full of miracles and wormholes and priestess group consciousness arising, and a lot of creativity in there. So you can email me if you're interested in following the Venus path, and I have lots of Gene Keys offerings as well going on in that subscription platform. So namaste, go in peace.